All right, so today for the majority of our lesson, if my PowerPoint shows up, we are going to be writing counterclaims. And this is not the first time you've heard the word counterclaim, but now we're actually going to be creating one. We hopefully have already taken care of pasting evidence into your outline, but if you haven't, you can go back and watch that video. We're going to be writing a counterclaim. You're going to be adding your counterclaim to your outline, and you're hopefully going to be identifying evidence you can use to support your counterclaim. And we're still in the construct phase because we are organizing our information and drawing conclusions. So you need to have open in front of you your note-taking grid. It's a handout you can get in classroom, and the argument, thesis, statement handout. That's the other handout you had in classroom. So one with all the different colored boxes. And to get warmed up on some random piece of scrap paper, actually you have a handout that you got today. So if you want to find some blank space on this handout, here's the handout I'm talking about. I want you to define the word counterclaim. Hit pause. When you're done, hit play and see how you did. So a counterclaim is the opposite position of the claim of your argument. So if my claim is cats are awful, my counterclaim might be cats are wonderful. And then I have a new vocab word to introduce today, and that new term is rebuttal. So the rebuttal is going to be your proof that the counterclaim is wrong. It's how you're going to say, your counterclaim doesn't know what it's talking about. I really am right. So when you are doing this, you can kind of think of an arm wrestling tournament. So you're going to mention the counterclaim and you're going to say, I recognize that some people think this. But then you're going to pull out your rebuttal and say, but I'm still right. And here's why I'm still right. And you're going to use evidence to win this arm wrestling battle. And you're going to use your rebuttal and the evidence in your rebuttal to prove that the counterclaim is wrong. So let's look at some examples. So if my claim was cats make the best pets, my counterclaim could be some people think cats are dirty. And then here's my rebuttal. But when properly cared for, cats can be very neat. So my counterclaim is the opposite of my claim. So cats are good, and then my counterclaim, cats are bad. And then my rebuttal is proving why this counterclaim is wrong. Okay, let's look at another example. Now we're going to pull this handout out, and we are going to go back to our model. Remember, we had a model we started with at the beginning. So we're going to go back to that model. So I'm going to remind you what the thesis was for our model paper. And the thesis is junk food should be banned from school vending machines because it exposes students to unhealthy advertising and contributes to childhood obesity. So now let's look at what our last paragraph, our last body paragraph would be before we get to the conclusion. And on your handout, that's this paragraph right here on the handout. Okay, and I'm going to read it out loud to you, but if you want to fast forward and read it to yourself, that's fine too. So the counterclaim paragraph says, some people may argue that banning sales of soda in vending machines will hurt school district funding, but this is a necessary sacrifice that may even lead to increased revenue. Even though vending machines can provide funding, it is unethical for districts to accept money from a revenue source that harms children. Districts are responsible for ensuring the school environment is healthy and safe for students. They cannot do this if vending machines sell junk food. One study conducted by the National Alliance for Nutrition and Activity suggests that switching to healthy foods in vending machine only hurts sales temporarily. Additionally, the total amount of money a district makes may actually increase because they see an increase in the number of healthy lunches sold. If districts do see loss of revenue from switching to healthy foods, they can offset the losses in other ways. For example, one district holds a walkathon where children get pledges from family and friends to walk a certain distance. It raises money and encourages good health. So let's break this paragraph down a little bit and look at the different parts of it. So we're going to start by zooming in on the very first sentence. So the very first sentence of this counterclaim paragraph, this is the last body paragraph before the conclusion, says, some may argue that banning sales of soda in vending machines will hurt school district funding, but this is a necessary sacrifice that may even lead to increased revenue. So the counterclaim is right here in purple. Some may argue that banning sales of soda in vending machines will hurt school district funding. So this is basically the opposite of my claim, okay? So remember, my claim was soda should be banned. My counterclaim is banning soda would be a bad idea because it'll hurt funding. Then I have the word but, and all of your counterclaims are going to have the word but. And then the stuff in pink is my rebuttal. That's me telling you how I'm going to prove that the counterclaim is wrong, that my side is still better. So I said, this is a necessary sacrifice that might even lead to increased revenue. So I'm going to show you that banning soda won't hurt funding and that it might even benefit the funding. Okay. So let's look at some other examples. I am going to go through these. You also have these examples on the back of your handout if you want to refer back to them. So let's say my claim is violent video games do not cause increased aggression in players. My counterclaim might be, some claim that studies prove that violent video games cause more aggressive behavior. So that's the exact opposite. Do not cause increased aggression, and this is does cause more aggressive behaviors. But then here's my rebuttal. But those studies, this is why that counterclaim's wrong, but those studies fail to factor in other variables such as peer rejection and the mental health of users. That's my rebuttal. Let's look at another one. If my claim is the minimum wage should be raised, here's a counterclaim. Those who disagree with raising the minimum wage worry that small businesses will close because they will not be able to pay their employees. So I'm arguing minimum wage should go up, but other people say minimum wage shouldn't go up because it'll hurt businesses. But now I've got my rebuttal and I'm going to say, you're wrong, because studies show that low-income workers will have more money to spend helping small businesses. So my rebuttal is saying, if you do raise the minimum wage, like I've suggested, it won't be a problem. Businesses won't close because there'll actually be more people there buying stuff. Okay, let's look at one last example. The claim, texting does not hurt students' academic writing. So texting on your phone doesn't hurt your schoolwork. The counterclaim is opponents will argue, people that don't agree with me, opponents will argue that using texting language carries over to academic writing. So they're worried that your texting language is going to show up in your essay. But here's the rebuttal. But linguistics expert Susan Sotilio says, going back and forth between texting and traditional language expands kids' vocabulary. So she's saying that using your brain to think in text language when you're texting and in academic language when you're writing an essay is a good thing for kids and it won't hurt them. So I'm showing in my rebuttal how this counterclaim is wrong. So you are going to do your counterclaim and rebuttal right now. You have in front of you, or you should have in front of you, this argument, thesis, statement, and outline. The top of it looks like this. And if you scroll down, you'll see this like pale lilac, pale green, and pale pink box. And we're going to use these boxes to craft your counterclaim. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to go up and I want you to read your claim. Okay? That's the pink box. Now I want you to come down here and I want you to write a counterclaim. This is just the first part. And I want you to tell me what other people might think. Okay? If somebody were to disagree with your claim, what point would they disagree on? If you need sentence starters, on the bottom of your handout, there's a bunch of different sentence starters. And on this slide, you have these same sentence starters. So the sentence starters could be one viewpoint is, many people think, on one hand, it could be argued that. These are on the bottom of your paper. You can pick any of these sentence starters to begin writing your counterclaim. And I'm going to stop this video here, and we're going to have to pick it up in a second part.